Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Wednesday. Hey, and Tom, it is National Limerick Day.
National Limerick Day?
So I wrote a limerick.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
Right? Now, if you understand the limerick, just so we can help people understand, the first, second, and fifth lines have the same number of syllables, and they rhyme. And the third and fourth line usually have shorter lines, and they also rhyme. Okay? So there's some art to this. I'm no limerick guy. There is a whole list of bawdy limericks that if you go to an Irish pub, you will hear.
Certainly.
I have chosen to keep mine clean.
Okay, that's probably a pretty good idea.
I thought you'd appreciate that. So here we go. The Ring of Renegades continues to grow as more leaders and owners are in the know. Invite others in so we can begin to make our Facebook a better place to go.
Look at you.
Told you earlier. I came to play today.
I guess so. I like that.
With a subtle message, no less.
Absolutely. That's even, you didn't have to tell me that. I figured that out.
Hence the subtle knot.
Correct. Nice. Well, National Limerick Day, huh? So I guess that's what we're going to have to put in the Facebook group. Everybody's got to put in their favorite limerick.
Yeah. Oh boy, this could get fun.
Not their favorite. We ought to make it about their business. That would be interesting. Do a limerick about your business.
I love Tim's comments. National Limerick Day. This is going to be good. And then this one, that journalism degree is really paying off.
It is, right?
And notice I use no big words like parsimonious, right? Was that the word in our networking event yesterday? I
guess. I tried to. I was going to post that on the page in the group yesterday. It's like, I learned this word today. This is what I took away from the day. And then I couldn't remember exactly what it was. So I was like, I'm going to avoid it.
So there you have it.
So speaking about our networking event, which we also have some other events coming up this May. And would you like to share some information about those events, Bob?
I would love to. I'm going to let people read them themselves, but I'm going to make a plea for you to join us at 1 p.m. Eastern Time today. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Time today because we are going to do the Ring of Renegades check-in, check-up. It's a great chance to network. It's a great chance to celebrate your successes so far in the week. It's a great way to talk to people about what you're still trying to achieve and maybe enlist their support, whether that's, hey, I know a person who can do that for you, or have you thought of this? And it's also one of the best ways to network with people because it's an open discussion. Tom describes as the water cooler, and I think that's a great way to put it. So if you're ready to get around the water cooler at the middle of your week, join us today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the Ring of Renegades check-in and check-up. Tom and I will be there. You can find all the details in the Facebook Ring of Renegades group. Hope to see you there.
It is a Facebook room, so you just have to go to the group and the room will be open and you can join us. And it lasts as long as it lasts. Some people are in there for a little bit, just pop in and say hello, and then others hang around for as long as it's open. So we hope we will see you then. Did you notice Tim offered another? I think I have shown my, I don't know, let's say lack of knowledge of SAT.
I'm trying to find. Let me get my dictionary. Stay there.
Well, while Bob is looking for the dictionary, Tim is putting up that's very,
I got it.
I can barely pronounce this. Nihilistic of you, Tom.
Nihilistic, I think it is.
I'm guessing that means observant or something like that. which I would rather just say observant. That's me. That's what's real for me, Tim. Did you get the definition of nihilistic?
I'm working on it. It's way too many words in this dictionary.
Yeah.
Nihilism, a viewpoint that traditional values and beliefs are unfounded and that existence is senseless and useless.
Now I'm even more perplexed.
I was going to say.
I'm going to take that away. Anyhow.
And clearly I need to keep this book close by for these programs.
Yes, that's not great video. Excuse me 1 second. Let me run off and go grab this. I'll be right back.
Maybe we need to have our word of the day.
No, we don't need to go that way. Somebody wants to do a word of the day, they can post it in the Ring of Renegades. That would be much good. Much good? That would be much better.
Much good.
Wow. We need to move on. There's definitely that. People have been way too patient, waiting for us to have a conversation, continue our conversation about patience, which is what we've been talking about this week. Talked a little bit about what it was on Monday. And then yesterday, we dove in a little bit more about its value and why it has value. And so today we're going to talk and ask the question, can you have too much patience? Is there a point when patience is detrimental?
No longer a virtue?
No longer a virtue, maybe. So I think we'll kick that off. Why don't you have some conversation around that? Share your thoughts, Bob.
Why don't I have some conversation? So, Bob, yes, Bob, you were all over the place today.
I need a refresh.
I was going to say, should we start over?
Maybe.
Wednesday. Hey, Tom.
Yes. So, Bob, patience.
Patience. I forgot our topic. It was a question. Is it too much, right? Can you have too much patience?
Sure.
And the answer I would say is absolutely yes.
Okay.
At the point that waiting is worse than whatever else, you've got too much patience. So let me give you the scenario. Let me think, when was it? Doesn't matter. 2014, I think. I was waiting for a job to be teaching at Johns Hopkins University. A great job. It took almost 11 months from the first interview or from sending in my resume until they hired me. In that intervening 11 months, while I demonstrated patience and got the job, I was not accepting clients like I had before. I was planning that this was going to come in and take a big chunk of my time, and I was going to have to shift things around. It was difficult to be patient because I was throwing money away at times. You know, people are like, Bob, I'd love for you to do this thing. I'm like, well, I'm not sure. I got this thing that might come through and all this. It's awkward in that situation. I've seen people who have big contracts pending. You know, they put an RFP in for a big project. They'll double, triple, quadruple their business, and then they have to wait for that process. And during that time, they're like, I can't hire more people because I don't know if I'm going to have the work for them. I can't buy more equipment. I can't deal with my supply chain. So I think there's a point where patience can be too much. And if you're waiting beyond what's reasonable, you know, with the Johns Hopkins situation, I waited about 4 months, did the interviews, and then someone that worked there gave me the heads up that, hey, you know what? You're in good shape. It's going to take us a long time. Just sit tight. Had that person not shared that with me, I think I would have withdrawn and said, you know what, guys, I can't wait any longer. You need to make a commitment to me. And the other thing is, your patience and my patience are very different, as are your patience and anyone else's, and your company's patience and my company's patience. And I think there's this belief that we all have this like guidebook that says, in this situation, you should be patient for 6 days, 2 hours, and 9 minutes. But the reality is it changes from situation to situation, person to person. And there are days when I can be really patient. And there are days when I cannot be.
It's interesting. I might go the other route and say you can't have too much patience. Because I don't know, and Tim talks a little bit about it in a comment he just made that I
Well,
don't
let's
know
put that
necessarily.
comment up.
Okay.
Patience is not about just waiting around, but about a willingness to continue on a path requiring effort, even when you're not getting the results you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes a little bit. I think we were talking about it on Monday. When we talked about what patience was, is that it's sometimes just believing that you're not going to get the result you want necessarily immediately. You may, and you may not. And I think it'd be interesting. You've got that little book right there, or actually, it's a big book. Why don't you look up patience? Let's get the definition.
Okay.
I think that patience is more, not as more, is the willingness to accept that things aren't necessarily going to happen on your time. Not that you just stop doing what you're doing. I think that's inaction.
Or put another way, they're out of your control.
Correct.
Right? So it's not on my time. It's just you have to wait for someone else to decide, and they work at their own schedule.
Right. And I don't think that necessarily means you stop doing everything else. It just means that you are comfortable, or you become comfortable in that this one situation is going to take longer than some other situation. Some people are going to walk in and buy your product right away. Others are going to walk into your store 6 times.
Or
Look
12.
at it. Or 12. Look at it, study it, go check out other options, check pricing, go online until they make a decision. And I think that patience offers the ability to not feel like we have to try to force something that we don't have control over.
You ready for the
definition?
definition?
Yeah.
The capacity, habit, or fact of being patient. And patient is bearing pains or trials calmly and without complaint. Not hasty or impetuous. I know impetuous is another one of those words.
I've heard that one before.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting that they define patience by saying it's the act of being patient. Okay, great. Thanks, Webster. Yeah, I think that it's a little bit more of an overall, it's not necessarily related to one individual action. That it is sort of, and maybe that's why it's always said is that patience is a virtue. So it's something that is not just, it's there all the time. And not that aren't hoping that things won't happen quicker. You just can't control them. I think maybe impatience is if you choose that you are not willing to wait and you do something differently. You try to force an issue that may or may not be, again, of your control.
Well, and I'll give you an example I dealt with many times. Tim and I did too, where we were doing marketing work for a client, and they expected a new website to be like go gangbusters the first day. I remember one person called me and said, I rescheduled all my staff so they could work tomorrow so that we can handle the flood of business. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, we're launching the website now. I was like, and what else? And he said, no, the website's being launched. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to work that way. It's going to take time. And that's an example. Marketing is an area where I think most of us, me included, find it very difficult to be patient. If you buy Facebook ads for a weekend, at 5 p.m. Friday when you've set that thing to go live, you're expecting the people to come through. At 9 a.m. Saturday, you're checking, not very few people. Monday. Doesn't mean the campaign's bad.
Right.
It just means it may take time to percolate, and within Facebook, it's that way. If you do newspaper advertising, I know I'm going old school. Tim mentioned journalism, but I could hear the salespeople at the weekly newspaper I worked at say, if you run the ad one time, you're going to get nothing. It's the 7th or 10th time that they see that ad that they go, oh man, I've been thinking about this. I got to just do it.
Right. We need to be in front of them at a time when they are ready to act. I think about fundraising. It's funny. I talk with a lot of my clients about their solicitation appeals. And so often the fundraisers sit down and say, okay, well, we should send a letter, an email, whatever, on this date because it's it's after our big event and it's before something else. And it's a timing of their choosing. That doesn't necessarily mean that their donors or potential donors are going to receive it at a time that they are ready to act. And I think, so that's just like your point of constantly being in front of them, hopefully at the right time when they are ready to take action. And we can never know what that is for every person. Hopefully we can gather some information about when do a lot of other people act. Say, hey, okay, great. That's why we will do this at this point. Doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to do it or that our people are going to do it. It just means that others have done it at this time. And that's why it makes sense.
What if, Tom, patience really is ultimately about shifting our focus from what is right for us to what's right for whoever it is that we're trying to serve? Because if I'm being patient, the customer is steering the ship.
Sure.
I'm a passenger on the ship, and they're choosing where we go, when we go, and if they're nice enough to say, "Hey, Bob, I'd really like your thing on my ship," that's great. And I think that's an act of faith, right? When we say, "Hey, you know what? I don't have to be in control." Believe me, as someone who likes control of everything, when I'm willing to let go of control, that's a real act of faith. That's an act of trust. That's an act of belief in that person. It's also trusting that they understand my value. If you and I are talking about doing business together and I go, "Okay, Tom, here's my proposal. Take a look at it and get back to me in a couple days." I believe at that point that I've given you all the information you need to understand my value in your life. If I've fallen short, I may lose. And I think that's what we worry about, is when we let go of that control by having patience, it's out of our hands.
Sure. And I think that maybe, is when you think about patience, that might be what it is. And almost why I would go back to saying it's why you almost can't have enough. Because
I'm
in
coming
reality,
around to that.
What's that?
I'm coming around to that opinion.
Well, I think that's just what's real for me and what I think. Because I think that if it's about understanding that we don't have control, that we are leaving it up to someone else for some things, I can control my actions. So yes, you can maybe have too much patience in that I delay taking action for some reason because I think I need to wait longer. And as it relates to our customers, our clients, our team members, I think we sometimes have to have some patience. People, typically sometimes it's around change for them. If you're working with a team and you come in and say, "Okay, we're going to change our processes." And if the next day 6 members of the team don't have it, are you being impatient if you're like upset? This is something new for them. And it's a matter of how long can we work through someone's ability to grasp either what we're trying to share with them or what we are offering them as a solution. And I guess when it comes to your team, sometimes you can only be patient for so long. If it's been 6 months and somebody hasn't gotten around to the processes that you put in place, maybe that is a time to take a different action. Doesn't mean that the person's a bad person or whatever. They just haven't been able to figure out the process. And so maybe they need to do something different where they can better understand the process and what's expected.
And we're dancing around the biggest area of patience, which is this whole pandemic. For so many of us, it's been a challenge to be patient, to wait for things to go wherever they're going to go. I'm not going to say normal because I don't think normal is going to return. But, we've worked with a person over the last year who went from, it was tough to see a pathway forward to now I'm thriving.
Right.
That person was in the networking meeting yesterday and just like, "Well, I got this, I got this, I got this." And that was patience, like it's going to get back to the way it was, and then recognition that, hey, no, I need to be the catalyst for what this is going to be, and then a new level of patience to acquire the information and do the new things. And so I think no matter what we do, we're constantly forced to be patient.
Or it is there for us to choose whether we are going to be patient or not. And clearly some people don't choose to be patient. And I think that's often leads to actions that can be detrimental to what we're trying to accomplish. If you put that contract out to somebody and you keep badgering them about, hey, did you get the contract? Hey, when are you going to sign it? At some point they're going to be like, wow, this is the way they act now. How are they going to act once we are, working together? I'm not sure that this is the interactions that I want to have. And so we can be detrimental to our own actions by being impatient sometimes.
Tim gives a great example. We're using the new cover sheet for the TPS reports. You know that, right? You got the memo. Here's another copy.
Right.
And I've said things like that before.
Well, it's that balance of, for you, it's like, hey, I'm not sure they're really getting it. Let me keep pounding it at them, and eventually they'll get it, rather than letting them, in some regards, digest it the way that they do. And maybe we need to think differently about how we're sharing that information so that they can digest it in a way that's beneficial for them.
And according to a relative of mine, why didn't you just Google the definition on your cell phone? The Gen Z generation don't know how to look up definitions in a dictionary. Love the show. I have the internet right in front of me. I have my phone right in front of me, but there is something incredibly soothing to me about this book.
Yeah, that book looks really soothing.
It's got I have a dictionary from 100 years ago, which is really awesome because you look up words like DNA or AIDS.
Google.
What's that?
Or Google.
Or Google. Doesn't exist.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes. So, Tom, we've hit that point. Your favorite point, my favorite point, the most important point of the show. What is your one thing today?
I think as it relates to too much, I honestly don't think we can have too much. Because I think if we believe, and I think I do, that once things are out of our control, we have to be patient to wait to see what the results are going to be. And just because we want to check the results, like you were sharing with your Google, your Facebook ad, we want to check them at 9 a.m. and noon. That doesn't mean that's when people are reacting and are going to take action. And so I think at some point, yes, we can look because we're interested and we're intrigued. We just shouldn't necessarily we shouldn't have expectations about what the results should be because we don't control them. All we've done is put it out there. And now once we've put it out there and continue to take action to put it out there, we have to wait and see, well, at what point do people react? So I think that patience is a virtue, and it is something that is beneficial to have because it helps you from maybe overreacting and overacting, which ultimately could be a detriment to whatever it is you put out.
You raised another issue, Tom, which is we have so much information available. There's no way in the world for Merriam-Webster to know that I opened this dictionary today unless they watch our program. And the odds are really slim that that's going to happen. However, if I go to the Merriam-Webster website or dictionary.com, they're going to know roughly what part of the world I'm from, how long I was on their site, where I went. And so we have so much access to information right now. I think that encourages impatience because when I worked at a newspaper, the only way I knew anyone read the paper was if they complained about a story or said that was a great story.
Right.
We put 30,000 copies out into the community every Wednesday. It was a black hole. Later in my career, I worked for an organization where we had a web presence and we put articles on the website. I knew how many people down to the minute had read what we put out there, and it started to shift our content. It's like, oh, they like this, not this.
Changes our expectations, right? We feel like, hey, I put it out there. If they don't have all the information, they can easily Google it. They can go to my website and find it out. Well, that's, that's assuming that they are going to want to take that much action to get all the information. They may just sit back and wait and be like, hey, you know what? I really don't want to go searching for it. I'm sure that if it's something that's really good, they'll keep sending me information. And at some point I'll decide this is the time that I need to act, or I'll never make that decision.
Right. I think I owe you one thing.
I think you do.
So my one thing is that I disagree with you, Tom. I think there is a point where too much patience can hurt you more than being patient. I don't know how to put my finger on exactly when that moment occurs to be able to say to you, no, Tom, stop being patient, take another action. But I do believe there's a point where we have to let go of things because like the old high school girlfriend that you thought was going to be the one, and now you're married and you have 3 kids and your kids are graduating from college, but you're still pining for that girl from high school. I'm not saying you, Tom, not you at all.
You kind of described me, though. 3 kids graduating from college. My wife is now like thinking, what's going on there? Thanks, Bob.
I love to share the wealth. Why should your day be any different than mine, Tom?
It is what it is. Well, I think it's an interesting point. I think if we think of patience as waiting, and that might not be really what we're doing. Patience is just knowing that it's out of our control. We keep moving forward. We keep doing other things. Just even in that example, someone kept living their life, even though they, at the same time, were also thinking about this person that they met 100 years ago. Even though we put out a contract, how many times do you have a contract that is still sitting in somebody's inbox? And maybe they look at it occasionally. That doesn't mean you completely stop. You shared that at the beginning, is that if you put in an RFP and you don't do anything else, now maybe you are taking patience to a different level because you've completely halted everything with the expectation that this is it. This is the one thing that is going to make or break what I am and who I am or what I do.
Which gets us to Tim's point. Tom's one thing really resonates with me today. I agree there's no such thing as having too much patience, as long as you aren't defining patience as inaction. And I think that's a really important distinction to make.
Did you see this comment? Thank you.
Looks like I have a phone call after the program.
Yeah, maybe.
So Tom, point in fact, just to clear the air, I won't name the name. I do not have 3 children, but there's certainly someone from high school that I think I'm over about 96%, but not 100%.
Okay.
I won't name her, but the people that know me really well probably know her name.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, you could have just added someone with no kids. Anyhow, all right, that's probably a good point for us to start to wrap up.
This might be my favorite show ever.
All right. Was that because you got to share your limerick?
Oh, come on. You like that limerick.
The limerick was good. It was good. So we hope that others, if you have a limerick, please feel free to share it about your business inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. It's a great way to promote your business without promoting your business, and in a fun way. So I think that's a good challenge for someone. And maybe we'll say that the best.
I will post that. I'll post something around that as soon as we finish the program. I hope people take advantage of it. I will post my limerick as an example.
Very good.
And a brief tutorial.
What's that?
And I'll do a brief tutorial because most people do not know what a limerick looks like.
Okay, that'd be great. All right, everyone, if you've enjoyed this conversation, or if you think that we're crazy and you have something else you'd like to add, please either put it in the comments or join us inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If you're not yet a member, it's easy to do. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and then ask to join. All you have to do is tell us why you're a renegade, and you can become a part of our growing group of people who are trying to help one another take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So with that, we hope that we will see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you at 1 o'clock today for our check-in.
Eastern time.
And if not, we'll see you at 8 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning for our next edition of today's Antidote. Here's some further information about the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Have a great day, everyone.
Carving your own path is tough. You want and need a community to offer you insights and advice, share inspiration, provide support, and save you time and money. But where do you find all that? Here's the easy answer: the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners identify their next steps. Here's some of what you will find at the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go to ringofrenegades.com and join today. Find and accomplish those next steps.